Oh my God. Hi, my name is Darcy Meville. I'm the founder of the Detroit Lions News. I hope you will enjoy our new show. We have a panel of Ben. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ben Bosher. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Forward Down the Field podcast, a new Lions podcast that got started up this year. Trying to do it a little bit differently, just like more from a fan's perspective. But I'll let Sam introduce himself too and talk more about that.
Yeah, so I'm Sam Goodman, the other co-host of the show. Yeah, as Ben said, we started this year because we thought, we wanted to bring a kind of a new perspective to the Detroit Lions. There's a lot, with like a fresh start for this team, and we kind of wanted to cover it from a new, different angle, and that's what we've been trying to do.
Mark?
Oh, yeah, I'm Mark Schmidt, former player, late 80s. Just been on with you guys a couple of times. I follow the team extensively, know what's going on, kind of mixed in a little bit of the past with the present. That's why I'm here. So, got a lot to say about this poor start, and it's unfortunate. But again, I talked to a couple of the players today, and they gave me a different perspective that I didn't really think of. So we'll talk about that during the hour too.
And finally, how many credentials does Micro Mike have? Explain.
Oh man, I really don't have any credentials, but I'm Micro Mike with Chat Sports, also Lions Nation Unite with Herman Moore. That is my boss and my pal. Here to talk some Detroit Lions and how this season has gone so far.
Right on. So the first question is, it's a tale of two halves with this Detroit Lions team. Let's talk about the first half here. We were 326 overall yards in the first half. Scored 27 points, which was really good. I thought, okay, golf is playing really good. Maybe we do not need to sign a quarterback or draft a quarterback. We had 62 yards rushing. Everything was clicking. We could have had more points. We left points on the field with Reynolds not catching that ball right in his hands. You guys want to talk about it? We'll go clockwise.
Yeah, when we first started, even the first drive of the game, we went right down the field and scored very easily. I don't even think we had a third down. And it looked like we were back to the offense we saw at the beginning of the year. This offense that doesn't necessarily have any superstars around, but there's so many good pieces everywhere you look with a great offensive line that you're just able to get down the field and with a very balanced offense. And it's insane how fastly it can go away. The second Jared Goff is under pressure, which it's under a little bit more pressure in the second half. I thought we did an okay job blocking for him in the first half. But man, oh man, we just look lost when he's not doing his job out there. And it's hard to put that all on him because, it's Jared Goff. We know what we're getting with him. You can't really ask him to do a whole lot. And I honestly don't even think we are. It's just the fact that sometimes we do have to ask him for us. That's how you know the game's already going downhill. Because if we're begging Jared Goff to save us, that's just not what he is. That's not what he has been. And that's usually where it starts to go downhill in our games.
Yeah. Just to kind of piggyback off that, first of all, how many times have we said, it's a tale of two halves this season? There have been a lot of games where the Lions are in it, competitive, and then kind of throw it away because this offense, they come out hot, they put points on the board, and then they start to stall out, especially coming out of the tunnel for, after halftime. And it's a lot of the time it looks to me like they're just getting away from the things they're best at, running between the tackles and, kind of going with those short little bootlegs and just dink and dunk plays, because at the end of the day, Jared Goff, as much as, sometimes he's had good games and he had a good one today, it's like he really isn't the type of guy who's going to go out there and make crazy plays that are going to win you football games. And because of that, the Lions really have to manage and work the clock and, again, just run it down the throats of the opposing teams. And they get away from that quite a bit. And it shows because once that offense starts to stall, that defense plays a little too long, they run out of gas, and these corners, they can't do much anyway, so that lead starts to dissipate real quick.
And it's interesting we talk about this team, the tale of two halves. It's a conversation I have with Herman Moore nearly every week, is how the first half they look good, but the second half adjustments are not there. There is issues there with their coaching staff and the ability to adjust of what a team is doing offensively and defensively. And we've seen now in the second half, the offense cannot perform. The defense is not adjusting. There is issues here. I'm not sure where it is coming from, but that is a big problem for the Lions. Is one half you look good, but the second half you're not making the essential adjustments to score a single point or to make a stop on defense. There's some problems here, and I'm not sure how it's going to get fixed.
No, I agree with you. I mean, that they just can't stop anybody at certain times, and then other times when when Goff is on, it just seems like there's a mental block here now. And that's not a good situation. That you become used to winning, yeah. Well, you become used to losing too in this league. So I've had an opportunity to taste it a little bit as a player, and it's like, man, I just think that, and it's not a talent situation. I think this team has a lot of talent. I think that they're very capable. I don't know. I think there's something a little off. I'm going to say this, and I shouldn't be doing it right now, but with this staff, these players are not playing to their potential. They're just not. I mean, that's just my opinion. I know that's kind of sad. We all like Dan Campbell because of, the great interview that he is and the great guy that he was and the good player that he was. But guess what, guys? It's not working. It's not working. It didn't work last year. Before we went on the show here tonight, all five of us were sitting here talking, and we came up with the idea that, hey, the entire planet thought that this football team would be better. Okay, because of Hard Knocks or whatever. I mean, everybody, even if you didn't follow the Detroit Lions at all, or if you live in Bills country like I do, and it's not much of an issue. But even the people here are like, oh yeah, the Lions are going to be better this year. So from an average fan's perspective, not a perspective of us, from the average football fan perspective, they all thought the Lions would be better. No question about it, and they haven't delivered, even a little bit, guys. And that's what's really disappointing. And watching Campbell go through this every week, it's tough to watch because the effort is there, but the result is not.
Yeah, to go off of what you said on we're not living up to expectations. Sam and I talked about this last week. It's almost like you look at what the Giants are doing, and it's hard to compare to, like, you look at the teams that are successfully rebuilding fast. You don't want to compare yourself to all of them, but you look at what the Giants are doing, you look at what the Jets are doing, and they're like setting their guys up to succeed. And that just feels like the complete opposite of what we're doing on the defensive end. I think the offense is what it is. It's fine. I think we're setting guys up to succeed pretty well there. But you look at defense and it's like, okay, Aiden Hutchinson, I think he's a phenomenal player, but the lack of, like, he wasn't showing up on the box score until last week, really. And yeah, a lot of fans were really upset with that. And I don't think it's because Aiden Hutchinson's a bad player. I think there's a couple pieces on this defense that I don't think are as bad as people realize. And we end up having on track to be one of the most historically bad defenses ever. Yes, the on paper it's bad, but we're not setting anyone up to succeed. I don't think we're helping any of these guys out from a coaching standpoint either.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. What do you think? I mean, I always put the question out there on the table. I mean, you don't want to run for the bus. The owner talked this week. She was, saying how she stands behind the coaches. But where is this right now at 1-6? Are the players a little bit tired of listening to them? Is it not working? Yeah. I mean, is this going to go really bad? I mean, is this going to end up at 2-14 or 2-15? I mean, I just want to throw that out on the floor and see what the general consensus is amongst you guys on that note.
For me,
Go ahead.
For me personally, I think it's not working. That is, you look at this right now, and players, it's going in one ear and out the other. We're one play away. We're one this away. At some point, you got to make those plays. That's the NFL. It's a game of inches. It's a game of, it's within 3 points to win a game, but we're consistently on the other end, and the adjustments are not being made. How many times do you have to sit there and watch the same play happen? We all knew that if you have a mobile quarterback, you sit in the pocket, he's going to get that first down. We've seen it since preseason, yet the adjustment is not made to at least put a spy in Tua gets the first down with his legs. We've seen it now with Smith over there for the Seattle Seahawks. We've seen it with Marcus Mariota with the Atlanta Falcons. That's not being made. And correctly stated, we do have some pieces defensively that are pretty decent. Jeffrey Okudah, I feel like, is having a good year. Kirby Joseph is starting to come into his own. Malcolm Rodriguez is looking pretty good, and the defensive line's got some talent here. We should not be 1-6. The expectations should not be, oh, we have to accept this. This is a total tear down, like it was spoken to us last week. That's unacceptable. You have to make progressions. You have to progress. We're not. We're in regression. Every week we're failing for some reason or another. Last week, offense. The week before that, offense. The couple weeks before that, it was just the defense. This week, it was the defense was cheeks, but and the second half, we couldn't score a single point. That's multiple issues, and we have to make a change at some point.
Yeah, I think
that's all really well said. Go ahead, guys.
I was just going to say, like, I mean, you constantly have to think about, like, again, Dan Campbell's such like a player's coach, or that's what we're like told to believe. But at some point, and I hate to be repetitive because I say this on every podcast episode we put out, at some point when the results don't come, you lose the locker room. It's just a fact. I mean, you can't keep coaching and saying, you know, we're one step away and we're not executing and it's on me as the coach, and expect these players to consistently follow what you have to say. I mean, again, the results don't come, and when you're not really doing anything to make changes that can kind of give this team a little bit of progress, or, you know, a fire under their butt to get them going, like, there's a sense of meaningless that comes to the season. You lose all direction.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you mentioned, like, how many wins are we going to get to? Are we going to go backwards? And if that's like what Sam just said, like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, is Dan Campbell losing the locker room? I'm looking at this upcoming schedule, and, like, games that we thought might have been a little closer, like, I don't know, the Giants and the Jets, they both seem to have at least something, even the Jaguars, like, they have something rolling with them. There's not a ton of easy games left on our schedule. Like, if we don't get to 3 or more wins, like, do you guys think there's at all a chance Dan Campbell's not around? Because that's just so, we got lied to so bad this offseason that we are going to continue to build it. We just, like you said, we just haven't.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. You know, does it, you know, do they look to make it, if it does get worse, which I was referring to earlier that it can, you know, is he safe? You know, or are we just, you know, were we lied to? Yeah, I guess we were all kind of lied to because we're all very optimistic, and the Hard Knocks thing, and, you know, the optimism of Camel and just his persuasive nature, you know, got us all believing that this was going to turn around, and it's gone in the other direction, which none of us, even the casual fan, as I was referring to earlier, is surprised at. So, you know, it's, you know, is he safe? I don't know. I mean, it's exhausting to think of the Lions going with another head coach at, you know, after the season is over. Don't you guys think? Wouldn't that be an exhausting type of thing, or is it necessary? What do you guys think? I don't know.
Well, Sheila came out today, and or not today, but she came out. I think it was Wednesday's practice.
Yeah.
Was it Thursday's practice?
I think it was Wednesdays or Thursdays. Yeah,
I think it was Wednesday. I don't know. Were you there, Micro? No.
Yes, I was listening to it. She came out, I think it was on Wednesday, midday. Yep.
Yeah, and she said they are only 1/3 through the process, and she was very confident going through their process and everything. So we need to pump the brakes a little bit on Dan Campbell. We need to see some wins. I get it. The fan base is like, seriously, look at it. The Commanders are going to be 4-4 after today.
Yeah,
we beat the Commanders. Isn't that sickening? Like, we have an easier schedule. I don't think Green Bay's that good. I don't think Chicago's that good. And, you know, New York's got a winning record. Bills are going to kill us. We got the Jags, Vikings, Jets, Panthers, Chicago again, and Green Bay. Talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we came in.
This game's about wins, folks. It's about wins. Yeah. You got to win. You can't just sit there and talk a good game and go 1 win for a year or 3 wins for a year. That's unacceptable. 3-13-1. That was last year. You're telling me you cannot match the same win total from last year, given the circumstances that you have a better roster because of a draft and a little bit more free agency? It's unacceptable. Are they going to fire Dan Campbell? I do not believe they're going to fire Dan Campbell. Will they remove Aaron Glenn as defensive coordinator after the season if it continues? I do believe that will be the case. I do think they're probably going to draft a quarterback, and that will be what they can utilize as saying the reason why we didn't get so many wins next year. It is exhausting to simply, fire a coach every single time. But at the same time, if you know you do not have the guy in Urban Meyer for the Jacksonville Jaguars, or a Matt Patricia who was awful, or a Wilkes over there for the Arizona Cardinals, I have no problem terminating a coach if he's not the guy. Because to allow somebody to consistently be there as head coach and fail is just wasting players' time. You're wasting time of TJ Hawkinson. You're wasting time of this offensive line with Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow. You're just wasting their time, just like we wasted it with Matt Patricia.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I still believe in the 3-year rebuild process that so many people, are kind of buying into now. So I say give him another year, but this guy's got a 6-year contract. So I think next year is really the season that says do or die for him, right? I mean, as much as I, for one, have turned on him this year, it's like, again, inconsistency, especially at the head coaching position, can kill rosters. As Mike just said, it's so hard to put so much effort into building a team for a coaching staff and for a specific scheme that they want to implement, and then wasting the youth and the good contract years, those rookie contracts of key players like TJ Hawkinson, as you just said. And again, I think coaching turnover can completely stall a rebuild. And so as much as he might not be the guy that we really want right now, consistency, especially when they're still building, kind of the most important thing.
Man, I want to know who these head coaches have as agents to get, like, if the Matt Rule rule, $40 million over the next, I don't know how many, 4 years. I mean, how these guys are able to sign these. I played in the league a long time ago, but I just look back and you mentioned the 6-year contract that Campbell has. I mean, and the thing is, he's unproven as a head coach. Now, the Matt Rule situation, I was a Matt Rule fan because he coached at Temple. I played at Temple. I played for Arians at Temple, but I mean, so I'm kind of rooting for the guy. At the same time, I'm like, man, these long-term deals with coaches that are unproven, at the top of, not as coordinators now, as head coaches. Okay, re-sign an Andy Reid. Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of guys out there, Pete Carroll. Yeah, even though he's getting a little bit older, but they're signing people who are unproven, as head coaches to long-term deals. And you make a good point. You really can't get rid of Campbell and maybe that's not the thing anyway, because we're all saying it's exhausting. But at the same time, man, why do you do that? I mean, and this is coming from my best friend growing up is a retired attorney. And he sits back and he did contracts law and he's retired now. And he said, man, how are these guys doing this? How are they signing these long-term deals as, Matt Rule is unproven. I mean, and he's going to sit there for the next 4 years and get 40 minutes. I mean, that's crazy,
Yeah, I mean, you got a 7-year,
and I don't think we're getting sidetracked here, because this is really the issue of what we're talking about here. We all know that this team has talent. We're kind of, I think the elephant in the room right now on this podcast right now is the coaching staff, and about Campbell not delivering when, like we was mentioned earlier in here that we were all kind of promised to, we were all kind of promised that.
Yep.
And maybe Hard Knocks did a little bit of that for us. But, it's like you can't make the move because you signed them. And is that a good business decision? Well, it's spilled milk. But at the same time, it's like, all of a sudden, Carolina's playing better football. Matt Rule's out the door and they're playing better football in 2 weeks. Yep. So, and the bottom line here is to win. I don't mean to overtalk here, guys. The bottom line is to win. And all of a sudden, Carolina's playing better football. Okay, go ahead, take it.
Well, I was just going to say, like, Mike, you mentioned just wins are all that matter in this league. And yeah, we did get more talent this offseason. We acquired Hutchinson. We got Okuda back. Amon-Ra was there from the start to go forward. Like, we added pieces and we're somehow regressing like we've talked about. That to me is on the coaching staff. And I mean, even Pascal, like another guy that we added and already is making an impact. Rodrigo, like there's players we're adding and we're not getting better. And it's so frustrating because we put ourselves in situations to possibly win games, but then you look at things we do and we're like going for it on 4th and 9 when we can take 3 points. That kind of stuff is coaching, and it's just so frustrating because right now this team just doesn't know how to win, despite like put us in any situation, and I just feel like we have no shot at ever winning because we can't figure it out. And that's what's so frustrating from a Lions fan perspective, because that's how it's always been. And that is why it's so heartbreaking.
And that's what I was referring to.
If you take another coach,
yeah, go ahead.
You take a Robert Saleh, you put him as the Detroit Lions head coach to start the season. Are we 1-6?
Probably
No.
not.
You take other coaches on other teams and you were to put them in there. Are we 1-6? I would say no, we are not 1-6. I think we have a little bit more wins there, and that is a problem. There's only 32 jobs in the NFL. You're not sitting here. You shouldn't be signing 6-year contracts to an unproven when there's only 32 jobs. It's not learning on the job. You're a former player. We got one right in here in this stream here. If you are terrible and you're playing awful, what happens to you? You get benched.
You get cut, or you get let go, or I mean, that's what they do. I mean, I've been through that. And you make a really good point, and you're referring to there's a mental block here. And you just mentioned some other coaches, and where would we be? And we all agreed we would be better off. I mean, guys, the 5 of us could probably go out there and win 1 out of 7. Us
I'm only a
right
couple
now.
of years older than Tom Brady.
right, Coach Darcy? I think we could pull that off.
Yeah, I'll throw the ball long. You go.
You go deep.
Go deep.
But I'm serious. No, it's kind of it stinks really, because all 5 of us didn't think that this record would be at this point for this point in the season. None of us did. I mean, if you would have said to us, "Hey, listen, they're going to be 1-6 after 7 weeks," right before they played the Philadelphia Eagles in the opener, which I was there for. I think you'd think, no. Oh,
Goff got hurt. That's what I would think.
Goff got hurt. Exactly. Good point.
Hey, hang on for a sec. Mike, can you make a little square of the game? I'm watching it here. Mike, we got an extra square. He's got the Rams and San Fran game on, so at least we could watch it. Oh, just a little square. Just a little square. If you could set it up. That way we can watch the game too, right?
It's just some nice high-tech stuff here. We're watching a football game while we're all having a podcast.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for?
Exactly.
Come on, you could do it. A little square. A little square.
Little square. Come on, guys.
It won't go to a little square.
Okay, take it off then. Oh, so man, it was fool's gold. You know how hard it is to win in December? It is so hard to win in December. And what we did last year is we won in December. We won in December. And that's what gave me hope. We beat the Green Bay Packers. We beat the Arizona Cardinals. I was thinking, wow, they're getting their shit together here. I don't understand. Like, that's why I was so hopeful for this year. Hard Knocks, kind of lured me in a little bit more. I went to training camp the first time in 7 years. Oh, it's just we were only 2 games out of a playoff spot before this week started. There were 6 teams at 6 or 3 and 4 for their record. Like two games out of a playoff spot for that last and the 7th spot. Talk about it.
Well, I'll jump in first because you mentioned December football. I talked about this. I noticed this last week, and it just has continued to trend. The Lions have only played 1 game outside, and it was against the Patriots, and we didn't score a point. So I don't you can take it how you want it, but I don't know. I don't know if this offense is still going to be the same once we start getting into these cold weather games, once we're playing in Lambeau. I mean, I think a lot of our bigger games are going to be against the Bills. We have our Packers games at home, but the Giants is on the road. The second Packers game's on the road. I think our offense is great. It does a lot of good things, but when it comes down to it, if there's 2 minutes left, I just don't trust this team, especially once it gets cold out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's there are building blocks, but at the same time, it kind of feels like because this offense is somewhat centered around Jared Goff and or the run game, which he needs to succeed, if not everything is perfect for him, then the Lions offense just gets absolutely shut down. We saw it when they played the Patriots. The run game couldn't really get established because they were getting just absolutely bodied at the offensive line, and they didn't have DeAndre Swift in to really do much. And Jared Goff can't really make much happen when he's the sole focus of an offense. And when the weather changes, and again, just some harder playing conditions arise, you can't really trust him because he's got such a one-dimensional game, right? It's throw it over the middle and just get it out of his hands quickly. Like, he's not really a guy who's going to be successful throwing it quite a ways downfield. He's not good at throwing out routes, and he can't move. So, I mean, again, it's like he's so one-dimensional that you really have to have everything perfect for him to succeed. And in hard, gritty December games, in bad conditions, I don't think will help this team at all.
Well, but the thing is, when you go to war and, he's what you got, that's at least you got him kind of, because you never really realize how bad things can get. And your point's well taken. I get that, and I agree with most of them. Yeah, he did get the Rams to the Super Bowl. Of course, he had a good team around him, and it was well coached and whatever. But those are excuses that you really can't make, and that's from a player's perspective. You don't want to make excuses. And you guys are all raising a good point. In good weather, bad weather does. You throw all that crap out on the table, and I don't mean it to be condescending to you guys. No, not at all. But it's about doing your job and getting it done. If it's 10 degrees out or 110 out, and and I think Goff's what they have, and he can move the ball. He is experienced now. We mentioned earlier, I'm not sure who did mention earlier about drafting a quarterback for next year. I think that's probably a possibility because they need a guy. Goff was surrounded with great talent even that year in the Rams when they played New England in the Super Bowl. But, he's not a marquee guy that's going to make a huge difference just on his own. I mean, Aaron Rodgers makes a difference on his own out there. He just does. You know what I'm saying? So, and Jared Goff is not that type of guy. Is he a good NFL quarterback? Yeah. If he was your first cousin, you'd think he was fantastic. But it's like, he's not gonna be the difference maker that brings you over the edge and can do it in the cold weather. And I do agree with that. But
elevate anybody.
It doesn't. Yeah, good point. It really doesn't. Kind of just fills in the gap. Kind of little Jimmy Garoppolo sort of.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Is that
Just a
kind of a
prototype
good
game?
example?
100%.
And
I think right now we're sitting with the first pick in the draft. Right now, that's where we're at. They have an opportunity to upgrade the quarterback position with a Bryce Young, coming, or another quarterback out there, dual threat mobile quarterback that has that it factor that can scramble through the football, get the first downs, and elevate a team around you. I think that's something they could look towards this draft. And look, Jared Goff, he is what he is. He is Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what he is. He's an average quarterback. He can hold the fort down, but I think in Detroit, you need something a little bit more.
Agree.
Who do Micro? If I could pick your brain, who do you want for a quarterback?
I gotta say, I think it would be really awesome to see Bryce Young, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams be reunited. They're first off, Jameson Williams, Alabama, and Amon-Ra St. Brown was at their high school.
Oh,
And I know he's a little bit smaller, but he has that it factor. The guy elevates the team. If you watch Alabama, he's making big time plays. But if you're looking for more the bigger quarterback, again, you go C.J. Stroud out of Ohio, but there is issues with the quarterbacks that come out of Ohio still. I think Bryce Young, right now, that's the guy who I'm looking at.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there because, I always mention to almost everyone I can, as a Michigan fan, Ohio State quarterbacks don't have the highest success rate in the NFL right now. And Bryce Young, he's a guy that, he'll extend plays and he'll elevate the team around him. And as you just said, in Detroit, that's exactly what they need because they have some pieces, but at the end of the day, you need a guy who can go out and make play after play.
And that's what's happening in Philadelphia this year. I mean, he is just with Hurts. I mean, from week one, seeing him play, and I think that's what you want is the dual threat. It's what we have here in Buffalo with Allen. It's I mean, here we are talking about the first pick in the draft, guys, but it's nobody thought we would be talking about this. This is man, we're in the same spot we were last year. Wow, okay,
almost.
Let's get Lamar. Let's go get Lamar.
yeah. So, but I mean, there's, but I think the defensive side of the ball, what one of you guys were alluding to earlier, there's probably going to make some changes there. I would think they're just giving up too much. I like the new kid from Oklahoma State. I like him a lot. The Malcolm kid, and he, I like Hutchinson. I think Akuta's playing better. I think the defense they got some rights, but they're just overall, they're just giving up too much. And that comes from a coordinator standpoint. It does. I mean, there are some good pieces there. But there's just, everybody says, it's hard to win in this league. And it is. I mean, today was a game that a lot of people, again, I'm in a neutral area. I'm not in Detroit, or I'm not in the Michigan area. A lot of people are just say, hey, man, and I don't know if they say that to me because I was an ex-player. Hey, man, I think Detroit's going to, they're going to beat Miami tomorrow. They're going to win that game, or they're going to at least cover, because everybody talks about the spread nowadays because you can, and here they did. And they just, everybody, and that was kind of a little bit of the upset of the week was Detroit to beat Miami. And again, you can't have, Hill going, 12 catches, 188 yards. Come on, guys. I mean, and Waddle had a great, you can't, Gesicki, he couldn't stop those guys. I mean, it was just like, it was a hot knife through butter.
It feels like that's happened multiple times. Like the opposing team just finds one thing that they can just pretty much bully us in, and they just continue to do it because we can't make adjustments. Like, I mean, you'd see it with our cornerback 2 position, whoever's out there, Warrior, Harris, like, it doesn't matter. Whoever's AJ Parker, like, they just can't guard anybody. So they pick on him. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, and the thing is, and what we alluded to, there is I don't know what goes on in that locker room at halftime, and it's easy for us to nothing. Actually, nothing. We alluded to it earlier in the show. No adjustments at halftime. I mean, again, I was, I'm from an area. I was in the league at the time when Buffalo was going to Super Bowls, in Detroit and so forth. And Marv Levy was the epitome of adjusting at halftime. I mean, that's just the way it was in this area. I was with you guys in Detroit at the time, but that's what, and I say that's what you grow up on. That's what you're used to. That's what you see, because that's, your hometown. But Detroit doesn't do any of that. Okay. They're not doing any of that this year. I mean, if they're giving up points in the first half, they're, then it clamps down in the second half, and then the offense doesn't move the football. It just seems it's a tale of two halves, but it just is everything. It's Murphy's Law. Everything that can happen wrong just does. And at the end of the day, they are making a good showing, and that's what's going to save Campbell's job, probably. That in the 6-year contract. But is that, they do show up. They do play hard. They lost today by 3. It was a good, exciting game from a fan who is neutral fan, who doesn't really care. I mean, we want to see the Lions win. But from a neutral standpoint, they put on a good show. And they've been doing that week after week. And sometimes in this situation, that's enough for this time period in his contract. Is what you want? No, of course not. Everybody wants to win, but you know what? They are showing up, and they are making a game of it, and they are competitive. I mean, 1-6, yeah, we're all upset and pissed off about that, but you can't say about this team, other than maybe one of the weeks here, maybe not even that they weren't competitive, right? No, I mean, they've been competitive pretty much every week. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely been in games and just can't finish, but also like as you said, like with the locker room, halftime adjustments, it's like, so many times after every single game, Dan Campbell's in a post game press conference, and he says, it's just about being one step away and bringing that intensity, and that they're not playing hard enough. And it's like, how many times is he going to say that? How many? Yes. And it's like at halftime, it makes me question if he's just saying, well, we just got to play harder instead of actually being creative with scheming to make changes for this team to perform. Because at the end of the day, it kind of seems like that's all he cares about is the amount of effort that players put in.
I agree. That's actually a really good point you make, because we've all seen those, and it's the same thing, and he is happy with the effort. And what I was alluding to earlier was, the efforts, there've been games, but are you just supposed to be satisfied with, putting on a good show? No, not us. That's why we're sitting here talking about it. That's why we have podcasts. That's why we, discuss this with the fans and as former players, it is that it's not good enough. And I'm tired of watching Campbell in those press conferences. I almost feel sorry for him in a little bit, maybe at some point. I'm just throwing this out on the table, and I've said this. I may have thrown this out to Darcy here and there. It may have been him, may have been Greg Rice, where I said, you know what, maybe you should just throw his arms up and say, you know what, let's just have some fun. Let's just put a smile on our face, go out and wing it. I think maybe winning in this situation has become so serious, okay, that, I think maybe it's not even fun anymore. Maybe it's just not even fun for the players. I would like that point. You know what I mean? Maybe it's playing for Wayne Fonts. That was fun. He's a fun guy.
He's a good coach, wasn't he?
He's a good coach, fun guy.
He'd come up and shake your hand just before the game. He could shake everybody's hand, didn't he?
Yeah.
You come and talk to you, give you a little pep talk in your ear.
Yeah, that's what guys want. It's different. I agree. It is different for everybody, but I don't think to kind of put a close to this part of it is, I don't think these guys are having any fun. I really don't. I don't think football is fun in Detroit right now.
It's not fun losing, is it?
It's not fun losing. No, I understand that, but it doesn't seem like it just seems it's so serious, and they can't get over the hump, and it sucks, and I kind of feel sorry for Campbell in those press conferences, but because it is kind of the same old thing, but he's trying, but maybe a good coordinator does not equal a good head coach. Ask Jason Garrett that. Oh,
no, I like that point, because it's so easy to sit here and blame Campbell. But I like the point you made. Like, they're not having fun. Maybe they're not loose enough. Like, you look at the last 2 minutes of every single game we play, like the Dolphins, the Vikings, the Eagles was a little different, but like the Seahawks, in the last 2 minutes, we just fall apart. Is that because we're is it a coaching thing, or is it just predetermined?
I think it's a talent thing. Like, we got Josh Reynolds. Like, he was cut by the Rams. He was cut by a couple teams. Once J-Mo comes here, we're going to be a little bit better. But it all comes down to talent, other than the offensive line and the defense. We're missing pieces too, and losing Tracy Walker to boot did not help us at all. We probably would have won the Minnesota game if Tracy didn't hurt himself, or a lot more games, because he was the green dot. He was a great safety. He was coming into his own, and he loved to hit.
Yeah, as Ben and I love to talk about on the show, this safety core is so underrated in Detroit. And so Tracy Walker being out was a huge, hurtful thing for this team, because it's this defense is pretty young, pretty inexperienced, and then you got a veteran leader out there, and he's pretty young himself, but he's got a few years under his belt, and he's a great, commander of the defense. And so losing him was huge. And then Deshaun Elliott, he's been a really solid against the run game, and he kind of picked up some of that slack. And now he was out for this game, and you're stuck with Juju Hughes and Kirby Joseph out there. And Kirby Joseph's a rookie who, frankly, I've been pretty impressed with, but at the end of the day, he's still a rookie. And Juju Hughes is not a guy that you really want out there every week in a starting role.
Yeah.
So we got some comments here. J-Mo is not the answer.
It's not our offense that needs help. We've got other issues in wide receiver.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I wanted, what I thought Hawkinson would have. When we did the preseason podcast on here, I said he was going to be the real link, and he was going to have a real breakout year, because it's time. It's the end of his rookie. Isn't it the end of his rookie contract this year?
No, he has one more.
One more. Yeah, he was extended for one more.
Oh, extended. Okay, yeah, but I mean, there's a guy that it was, and with all these teams, that have any success, whether it's Dawson Knox here and what he did last year, little issue, or what they did with Kansas City with Kelsey, or even what San Francisco has done, with 85. Why am I
Kittle.
drawing it?
George
Kittle.
Kittle.
All these teams, they all have tight ends that are marquee tight ends. And, the top 8 or 10 or 12 teams all have marquee tight ends. Tyler Higbee with the Rams, who every time I tune in, he has a great game. It's like, I thought Hawkinson would be that guy this year. I thought he would, and he's saying it's some bright moments, but a guy with that kind of talent and just the way he moves out there and how athletic he is and how strong he is, and he hasn't. And those are the situations. Him having a 60% year instead of a 80% year, that could make a difference. They could have 3 wins right now with just one guy, and especially with a tight end, that makes so much of a big difference. So. That's been a kind of a disappointment for me, because I thought, that would, he would arrive kind of this year and really have a phenomenal year. So, but
I've been predicting that year to happen since like year 2. I've just been
the hot jersey on.
Yeah, like
I knew somebody was going to say
that. I got this his rookie year because I was like, this guy's going to be on our team forever, because he's just there's no way he doesn't get better. And it feels like ever since his second year, he's just been the same every year. And it almost feels like, too, like we're using him less and less. He actually, like, he had that big play today, but it's not like we're incorporating him into this offense. It's more centered around the run game and getting Amon-Ra the ball. It doesn't feel like we're drawing anything up for Hawkinson. And I mean, it was different.
He is not. You're making a really good point. He's really not the marquee guy to go to. He's not a go-to guy. I'm just watching George Kittle on TV right now. San Francisco beat the Rams handily. Yeah, but it's like, that's just one little bit of a disappointment there. Here's a guy that's right at the edge of his rookie contract, wants to, make a statement and has all the talent in the world. And, he's not really doing his part. And that is what's hurting this team. And if you say something, like that, 5 or 6 times over, well, then maybe that's why you're not winning, because it's just a fine line in that league, as you guys all know, between winning and losing. It's so tight. And, TJ Hawkinson not having a breakout year, is it hurting this team? Absolutely. Yeah. Has he made some plays? Yes, he has, but not on the Kittle level, not on the Kelsey level, not on the Dawson Knox level.
Not consistent.
No, he's not there every week, and he doesn't offer really anything in the blocking game to really justify that. Because guys like Travis Kelce and Kittle, they can do both, but they're both great receiving threats every single week. Every time they step on the field, they make an impact. TJ Hawkinson, again, it's one of those situations where it's like, if everything is perfect, if somebody's out and we have to utilize him, that's when he starts making an impact. And you really would like to see more. That's a guy that we drafted, super high. We expected so much out of him. We hear about him all the time. And now, I mean, before this game, there were rumors speculating whether we were going to trade him or not to get a draft pick, because at the end of the day, he just really hasn't amounted to much.
Yeah, I think, as far as trading him, I think that just from a player's point of view, you want as many, you call it the all airport team is what Dickie V calls it. There's certain guys that just have NFL bodies. Mm-hmm. I played with, some guy. I mean, and he's one of those guys. I'm not going to look back to my past, but, you want as many of those NFL bodies out there, and he's one of those. So, and he is on the edge of he's at that 26, 27 age where all players really reach their peak, except quarterbacks. And so I'd be really disappointed. Again, I'm upset that he's not doing better, but if they traded him, I think that would be a kind of a sad day for us, because he's a sleeping giant that just hasn't grown.
Yeah. I'm going to feel like I wasted $120.
He had a pretty good first quarter. Didn't he have a huge
run? He did. He had one good play, one really good play.
Big play. Yeah, he could have. Yeah, well, he didn't have the breakaway speed, but he almost had a touchdown there.
But we're just talking about just the overall year here. This is what we're.
He did have a good game today.
He did. I agree with you. And he had one other really good game this year.
Yeah,
So,
just two.
but what we're talking about and what we're all agreeing here is that the inconsistency and just talking about, Kelsey Kittle, Knox gets a little lost here in Buffalo just because the wide receiving core is so good. But he's become a marquee guy. And, all those teams that are in the top 10 or 12 teams in the league, whether it's Tyler Higbee or even Gesicki, who we saw today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all those teams at Schultz for Dallas, Dalton Schultz. I mean, they all have good tight ends. All of them do.
But
And the teams, go ahead.
I was just going to say, at the same time, though, like, holy cow, some of those guys got paid a lot. Like, how much did Dawson Knox get this summer? Like, it just felt like everyone was getting overpaid, which makes me worried about Hawkinson because for all the reasons we just said, like, I don't know if I want to put that much money into someone who's not going to be consistent.
I mean,
Right.
yeah. I mean, Dawson Knox got a 4-year, $52 million contract.
Wow.
David and
Schultz
Njoku,
got one big.
got a huge one as well.
Dalton Schultz signed a new contract?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, he
Did he?
did, and
Okay.
Njoku got a $25 million contract or something. Like, these are
Right.
free agents that, like, at the end of the day, like, they're good players, but are they the best tight ends in the league? Not really. I mean, because again, those are your Kelseys and your Kittles, and so it's like, are you really willing to use so much of that money? And cap space is something the Lions really need to spend on defense on a tight end who, again, hasn't made the biggest impact.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
then you seen
this stuff-
Brock Wright got hurt or concussed today too, so
Yeah.
that kind of hurt us. I think he was part of the game plan.
Yeah, he's such a good blocker that, like, we kind of have to utilize him because we run so much. So he definitely makes a big impact when he comes out. He's probably one of the more underrated players on this team. Ben and I like to hype him up a lot on our show.
So we're kind of coming to that time. Do you guys have anything in final?
Well, Washington just beat Indianapolis, so that makes us look a little bit okay, right?
Now they're
trying
4-4.
to end on a positive note, guys.
Now they're 4-4.
Seattle beat the Giants, so I guess that makes us look good too, or they're going to beat the Giants, right? I mean,
I just don't understand how the Commanders are 4-4 and we're 1-6. Like, I just like they just look lost. Like, their team is horrible. Their organization's horrible, and then I look at us and I'm like, oh my god,
What's a backup quarterback too?
I know.
Yeah, Tyler Heineke. Yeah, who's actually, he's pretty darn, he's good.
He's fun. He's a lot of fun.
You know what, guys? He just doesn't screw things up. He just kind of, it's kind of like what what Bailey Zappi did in New England. Just play within yourself. The kid, Cooper Rush in Dallas. Some of these second team guys are, they're good. They're good players.
I love some Cooper Rush.
Yeah, I mean, and Heineke, I think, brings the same thing to the table. He may be better than the other two that we mentioned right now. He may be, because he's got some experience, but he's a small school guy, an Old Dominion guy. Made the most of his opportunity, and and that's what it's about. That's what Cooper Rush did for 4 or 5 weeks. He just didn't screw up. Yeah. It's not that he dazzled anybody. He just didn't make any mistakes. Didn't turn the ball over. Played within himself. They didn't throw too much of the game plan at his way to have to perform. And and that's equates to winning. And that's where, I don't know, guys. That's where some of this has got to be some coaching. Ron Rivera is again a proven head coach.
Yeah.
Okay, he knows how to set up a game plan where played for the 85 Bears, by the way, and knows how to set up a game plan so that Heineke can play within himself and play. That's all smart stuff. Now, some of these coaches who are good motivators, not all of them are great X's and O's guys. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you got to be a good X and O's guy. It's not all just about motivation and rah and let's go after them and let's really go real hard and da da da. It's a thinking man's game now, and it's become that, especially in the last 10 years. My gosh. So
Sam and I always joke around that we should let Ben Johnson be the head coach for 1 week and see what happens. Dan Campbell can just be our motivational speaker in the locker room.
Exactly. He can be a team mascot. Like,
tell me you wouldn't hire Dan Campbell to be a motivational speaker if you had a banquet or something. Oh my God. Like, we would hire him, and we would pay him, pretty much what he wanted, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to see him in the WWE, actually.
Oh, here we go. Oh, now you've started it.
Yes,
now you've started it.
He'd be the best face you can ask for.
Him
the next Stone Cold.
Exactly.
Stone Cold, yep.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for everybody tuning in to the Detroit Lions news. You can catch us next weekend. Do you want to do it 6:30, guys? Mark, would you want to host it next week? Because I'm going to be.
Well, I
I'm gonna
can.
be
You're gonna be with me next week, right?
Oh no, the weekend after, isn't it?
Weekend after. Okay. Oh, the weekend after.
Yeah.
Well,
Mark. Mark got
we'll
me
talk about it. Yeah.
NFLPA tickets. I greatly appreciate that. I think I'm going to be asking you. We're going to get a hotel there because I want to have some wobbly pops. So me and my buddy are going to come. And we're going to spend the night in Buffalo.
Coach Darcy is shuffling off to Buffalo. How about that?
Yeah. Well, I have Sunday, Mondays off, so yeah, I can't wait.
That a boy. We'll
You
take
guys-
good care of you.
You guys good for 6:30 next Sunday?
I should be. Yeah.
Yeah, should be. Yeah.
All right. One pride. Let's
One
go.
pride.
Yep.